son is in Arizona State and is fiancé. So yeah, it's nice. That's, in January, I'm going to be gone an entire month.
Yeah.
I'm going on a cruise for 17 days, and then we're going to Arizona. But I'll be able to tell you ones when I'm in Arizona. Sorry.
All right, should we get started?
Sure.
Ready?
Sure.
Is it 6?
You're cruising to.
What's that?
I said, I want to know where you're cruising to. But
Yeah, where are you
we should
cruising
start
to?
the meeting.
It's a Caribbean cruise.
Oh,
That's gonna
okay.
be incredible.
Can you take us? Okay, we'll get started. Meeting is called to order. We recognize that the Hogan Administrators Center occupies the land of the Ho-Chunk people. Please take a moment to celebrate and honor this ancestral Ho-Chunk land and the sacred lands of all indigenous peoples. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Mr. Alberts,
Excused?
Mr. Begneski,
Here.
Ms. Fuchs,
Here.
Dr. Garcia,
Here.
Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mr. Manka,
Here.
Mr. Newmeister,
Here.
Dr. Sprague,
Excused?
Ms. Sukla.
Here. A quorum of the Board of Education is present, so the regularly scheduled meeting of Monday, July 21st, 2025 is called to order. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and face the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's agenda has previously been distributed to the board. I would entertain at this time a motion with a second to approve the agenda as submitted, unless there is a motion to amend.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
And Ms. Sukla, we will do a roll call vote since we have Mr. Manka online.
He just has to make more work for us. We'll do a roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Begneski,
Yes.
Ms. Fuchs,
Aye.
Dr. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mr. Manka,
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister,
Aye.
Ms. Sukla.
Aye. Motion passes. We have no speakers this evening, is that correct? Public speakers? We will then move on to the superintendent consent agenda. The superintendent consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items that the members would like to remove from the superintendent consent agenda?
I just have a quick question to pull from the HR approvals.
Do you want to pull it off, or do you just, what's your question perhaps?
I had a question for our superintendent, kind of ask more so about the increase of assignments we have. Is that just something which we're doing just to restructure ourselves or prepare for the upcoming year?
Um,
I can feel that.
Sure, if you want to hang on, our superintendent is on vacation, well-deserved, and so, yeah, if you'd want to come up and answer that for us.
Absolutely, I apologize, didn't see it.
We have our HR director who will be able to fill in.
Awesome.
I think all of them are, or most of them are overloads. Teacher teaching one extra section of a section. So nothing unusual, just the standard added extra overloads.
Okay. Anything else on the superintendent's consent agenda? Does that answer your question, Mr. Manka?
It does.
Thank you.
I more so just asked because I was curious if there was something else that was kind of missing between the lines there.
Okay. That happens this time of year, that's pretty typical,
Very-
isn't it?
Always, every year.
Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I look for a motion, a second, to approve the items on the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Begneski,
Yes.
Ms. Fuchs, Dr. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mr. Manka,
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister,
Aye.
Ms. Sukla.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. I'm just looking up here. So the next agenda item is the board consent agenda. This consent agenda is a mechanism used by the board to deal with routine business that must come before the body. Are there any items that members would like to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion and a second to approve the items on the board consent agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the board consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Vigneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye. Motion passes. We'll then move on to information, and we're going to start out with equalization aid basics. I suspect that's you.
So, we hear a lot about equalization aid at this time of year. We have, the state budget has been finalized, and we're gonna take a little bit of a dive into equalization aid to, help you through the pieces that we deal with all the time. So, of course, you know that equalization aid, sometimes it's referred to as general aid, it can be referred to as state aid, same thing. And it is the state portion of the revenue limit and provided through the formula based on property wealth per pupil in the district. And the purpose is to equalize the fiscal capacity of school districts. And the impact is to provide property tax relief, not revenues for schools. So we always have to remember that equalization aid is different for every district, so 421 districts, based on property wealth and their aidable costs and their membership. It is not based on student need, the cost of education in a district, or the income level of the students. So this one you're very familiar with. So that's the equalization, that is the funding equation. So revenue limit minus the state aid, revenue limit for the property tax. This is are the equalized property value, the spending, and then that's converted into, by membership, the per pupil amount. So, sure. The factors, the property tax base is used to determine district wealth with the ability to support district expenditures. And it uses equalized valuation or fair market value, not the assessed value. On your property tax bill, you'll see your assessed value. So it is a little bit different. And we're not really comparing apples to apples, but this is the calculation. So property values for each district are certified in May each year by the Wisconsin Department of Revenue and used in the next year's aid calculations. So who is counted for aid membership? It's residents for which we are financially responsible. It is not the same as the revenue limit membership that we figure also. So there's some differences. So the next slide kind of shows you that equalization aid is actually based on the count of, it's an average of the September count and January count, and this revenue limit is based on a 3-year average. So it's totally different membership counts for each of these equations. So the spending factor, so we get all kinds of revenue, local property tax and state equalization aid being the biggest ones. Then we have the revenue outside of the revenue limit, the state categorical aid, the federal aids, the state grants, and some fees that we might charge. We have to be very careful with that. because of this being a mostly free education. So general fund shared costs. This is not us, but you've seen this chart in our budget book. So state aids, local property taxes make up the bulk of the revenue for school districts, and then other sources, small amount. So this is based on 23-24 numbers. So the shared cost per member, what I want you to see in this slide is that the state average is $12,438 in 23-24. For La Crosse, I have that up on the top, it was $12,298. So La Crosse is very similar to the state average. Now, the equalization aid, what's important about this is that the more property wealth per member a district has, the less aid that they will receive, and vice versa. And the next slide, it just says, what are the district factors, and then what are the state factors? So the equalized property value would be for the district, our membership, and our spending. And then the state factors are the cost ceilings, the guaranteed valuations per member, and the total state dollars. And this is where I will mention that in the 25-27 state budget, the total state dollars did not change from the previous year. Usually it goes up to cover that cost per pupil, that $325, but it did not. So the equalization aid computation is actually 3 individual computations. The result of all 3, primary, secondary, and tertiary, are the summed up to get the district's total aid. So it's important to know, is La Crosse funded on all 3 levels of equalization aid, primary, secondary, and tertiary. So if the next slide, you'll see that I put on here for 2023-24, our shared cost per member was $12,298, so you want to look on your right-hand side and look where we stand there. And then the district value per member was $976 and $2. So if you go on the chart, where does that take us to? So you go across from the 12,000 and up from the 900,000. Where are we at? Yep, negative tertiary aid. So La Crosse is not funded on all 3 levels. We're, along with 109 other districts, we are not funded on the tertiary level. 199 districts statewide are funded on all levels. 65 districts are funded on the secondary and the primary. 20 districts are just getting primary aid, and 27 districts in the state get no state aid at all. So they have extreme property wealth. And those are usually your areas up north where all the resort areas are and their cabin properties. So negative tertiary aid is incurred when districts have a shared cost per member above the secondary cost ceilings. And those cost ceilings change every year. So actually since about 2011-12, we have not been funded on the tertiary level. So as you can see in 23-24, our value per member was $976,200. The state guarantee at the secondary level was $861,000. So the difference is what we were not aided on.
That's property value per member, is that,
Mhm.
am I reading that right? If you take all the value property in the school district of La Crosse and you divide it by the number of students, that's the number that it comes up with?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when you say negative aid, so you said we're in the negative tertiary aid, but then you said we get none. So is it 0 or is it actually a reduction in the other aids? When it's negative always makes,
Actually, it's a reduction in our tertiary aid at this level. We have not gone into taking anything away from the secondary level. So the July 1 aid estimate, which we would just received, is based on our budgeted expenditures of all the 421 school districts. But our aid on October 15th, which is that last piece of information we need before you can set the levy, is on the audited expenditures of all the 421 districts. And that's why the July 1 estimate might be significantly different than the October 15th estimate. And the best we can do, or that I've tried to do, is once we get past, like when we get close to the audit and we kind of know our numbers for 2024, 25, I start plugging them into the equalization aid calculation. But depending on what happens with all the other districts, I may be close, I may not be. So I try to get it close I can. And then how would a district's aid change if the property value was 10% higher or 10% lower, if everything else was the same? So changing that value changes the value per member. If you have more value, you usually means you get less aid. If you have less value, it usually means more aid. And then the same with the membership. So you know we are having declining enrollment. So if we have more kids, we have less value per member, which means we get more aid. But if we have less kids, then we have more value per member, so we get less aid. So equalization, these are just things to refer to if you ever want to refresh your memory. But it is a property tax relief under the revenue limits. It's inversely related to our district property value per member. It's one pot of money for all 421 school districts, and that pot of money did not change for the next 2 years. So depending on the district value per member, some districts' aid is increased by increasing expenses, and others' aid is decreased by increasing expenses. So in La Crosse, not being aided on that tertiary level, we don't want to increase our expenditures. We want to stay within our budget or have less expenditures than anticipated. A neighboring district that might get aided on all 3 levels, they might want to increase their expenditures so that they look like they need more aid. So it's kind of, and it changes from district to district. So I've worked in 3 different districts in the state of Wisconsin. This is the first district I've worked in that's not aided on all 3 levels. So that's a different way of making sure that your expenditures are falling in line.
But your expenditures are limited by your revenue limit, aren't they? I mean, you only can spend so much.
They're actually limited by your budget. So, because remember, we have all different kinds of aid, and then our debt expenditures fall into this shared cost too.
Okay.
So different districts might have different amounts of debt they're paying back. So,
And are referenda outside the revenue limit? Above and beyond the revenue limit?
Yes.
So that's another way
the
that it
debt.
contributes to our budget, right?
and
Right.
even our operating revenue.
You think of it as debt, which is appropriate.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but even our operating revenue, for our operating referendum.
That's the one I meant,
is
yeah.
increasing our revenue limit.
Right,
So
okay.
that's increasing our expenditures too. Mhm. So final points on equalization.
Yeah, at last note,
Yeah,
on that page 20, even though it was 325, the state budget didn't cover it, so therefore it was still shortchanged.
we are. So it's means that the revenue limit, even with that 325 per pupil that we're allowed to increase our revenue limit, our aid is going to be not as much because the pot didn't change. So that means taxpayers pay more
Levy.
levy. So
We
hopefully.
could spend the money, we didn't get the state, and so the difference is made up through local levy.
Mhm. So we will see how that is going to work for us with declining enrollment. It might not impact us as much as other districts that are growing. So Just a few final points, that special adjustment for hold harmless keeps your aid from falling more than 15% per year. So that's important, that we know that we never would get less than 15% of last year's. More aid means less to tax, not more to spend, and has to be combined with a revenue limit increase to make the resources available, and that's the operating referendum. So aid formula assumes the value per member is the best measure of the ability to pay, and the redistribution is the intent. For one district to get more, other districts have to get less. So keep in mind that a lot of districts now are thinking that they need to go out to operating referendum because that aid is not increasing. So they will need other funds. So, questions? I know this is kind of a lot, but I just thought that it would be interesting for you, and if you are ever asked if La Crosse is aided on all 3 levels, you would know.
Can we look at this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go right ahead.
Can we look at the slide that has shared cost per member on it, that had the average for the state and the one for La Crosse and then the high and low? Is that difference, I mean, I was thinking about the some sufficient special education funding that we were pushing for. When you see that big variation from 8,000 per student to like 26,000 per student, is that a contributing factor to that variation in, like, is that what makes a difference between, because the average is what we work with, but do you know what I'm asking?
If we would have gotten more for special ed aid, we would have had to transfer less from our general fund,
Right.
which covers all students, and that would give us more money for all students because the state would be picking up more of the cost of special education.
And would it change that average number that we spend per pupil?
It could.
Right. So I was just thinking, like, there's a very small number on that bar graph of that were up in the like $20,000 or whatever, and then most of them, of course, are that's the one. Yeah. And so I just wondered, when we're talking about special education funding and the importance of some sufficient, getting the legislator to pass some sufficient, which means they will meet that obligation, right? This is the number that it's impacting, maybe.
Right. And it was not some sufficient.
Of course, it was not.
So we'll see how that works.
It wasn't as high as they asked for, and it wasn't some sufficient, so it's just another variable that we're
Yeah,
contesting.
and I can't remember if Aaron shared with you, but our special ed aid is based on what we've spent this year. So for 25, 26, we'll get our special ed education aid based on the expense of
the
this
year
year.
before, yeah.
But the increased percentage does not apply to this 24, 25 year.
Yeah.
It applies to the 25, 26 year. So
Okay.
the increased aid will come in on the 26, 27 year,
Okay.
okay?
And that is not taken into the pot the state allocated for schools? I mean,
No.
no. Okay.
Because your general aid is what falls into this, but your general aid, I mean, we take $11 million from general aid every year and cover the Fund 27 or the special ed expenditures that are not covered by state aid or any other federal aid. So those are a lot of dollars. So. Okay? All right. You have this forever to look at.
And again, this is just, trying to figure which, maybe slide 3?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now it all went away. Me and technology are not friends. It's, Janet used to always call it the 3-legged stool. There's 3 pieces to it. It's, the revenue limit is really our main thing, and then the 2 pieces that fit into it are this equalization aid and levy. So if equalization aid goes up or down, levy will do the opposite, because the bottom line is that revenue limit that's already been set. So even if we got a ton more equalization aid, doesn't give us the opportunity to spend a ton more money because we're
Right,
still
for
bound by
students,
that revenue
Correct.
limit,
Correct.
so. Because I always get excited and then I'm like, oh yeah, never mind. But it's a benefit to our local taxpayers.
Yes.
Other questions or comments?
Okay.
I appreciate you rolling out these pieces of the budget to us, that's helpful. We've got another piece coming up in a little bit. But our next item, if we're all okay to keep moving forward, is our results monitoring report. R 3.2 involves citizenship. And bear in mind that this is an R, this isn't an OE, and the OEs measure compliance. Rs measure reasonable progress. And in a few months, I don't recall exactly when, but we will be getting the R to approve if we've made reasonable progress. But there's so many pieces, so many reports that go into it, we get those throughout the year. So this tonight is to discuss and ask questions and help us get ready for when we do get a chance to vote, but there will not be a vote on this tonight. So I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. We are sharing information on results monitoring 3.2. Carrie Huth, the Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment, and
I'm Britta Rotering, the Supervisor of Career and Technical Education.
there are 4 indicators for this result monitoring report. It is students, and the overall topic is students will demonstrate effective skills in team as well as individual endeavors. So we have 4 indicators for this, the first being co-curricular participation as indicator 1. And in that indicator, you will note that you have percentages across, this is looking at students grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12, our middle school and our high school students, that are involved in 2 or more co-curricular activities. And that could be an activity, it could be an athletic, it could be a club. So looking at 21-22, 22-23, 23-24, and then this year, 24-25, you will notice growth in all areas, including grades 6 through 8 and 9 through 12. And then when you look at the reference group graph down below, you will see either we are holding steady or have some significant growth in some of our reference groups as well. So it is an indicator that is showing reasonable progress. And we'll move to indicator 2.
Okay, the second indicator is our Academic Career Planning Program, or ACP. I've had the opportunity to present to the board and on this previously surrounding some programs that we've been able to implement at the secondary level. As you take a peek through the results, the first page has the middle school results from each of our middle schools, including Polytechnic and CRVA. Backing up a little bit to ACP, and what it does is really it's a program where we help our students to be able to continue to explore and expand upon what may be potential pathways for them to continue their education, 6-12, or post-secondary in preparation for continued education, employment, or service. As you look down through the middle school ACP results, I'm thrilled with where we're at. We've had nearly 100% completion and activity within each of our activities or ACP events that we've deemed as important. We do have a middle school ACP team and a high school ACP team at each of the buildings in the district-wide. I have the privilege to work alongside those teams to help identify what these activities or events may look like for our district. If you turn to the back or the second page, you can see a continuation of what each activity or event is throughout the grade level, and then continuing down into our high schools, again, including Polytechnic and CRVA. Again, near 100% completion in each of our activities, with the exception of the 11th grade junior activity, which would be the Academic Career Planning Family Conference with their family members present. While we aren't at 100% there, we're at 92 Central, 65 Logan High, 92 Poly, and 35 with our CRVA students. I do want to point out that we have had significant growth in those conferences and having families, a family member, one or more, attend that along with their student. Those are held in a variety of settings, whether it be on a family parent conference night or that in an individual time that is scheduled with their student services school counselor.
So who sets these criteria? Is that a,
Yeah, so that is the criteria or the activities we set actually within each building level academic career planning team. I work alongside that team to set them, so each team is comprised of a group of members from that building. So I'll use Central High School, for example. There are 4 school counselors at Central High School, so it'll be the 4 counselors, myself, usually 2 or 3 teachers, depending on where we're at and different things. We have had students participate as well. I've been in the district, this will be my 5th year. My first year here, we had a really large team in each building, over 30, and it wasn't as successful as we had hoped it would be. So we stepped back, we rebuilt each team, and then our student services or school counselors, who are the ones that are at the table most often with myself as we decide and put these down, what we're going to commit to, they meet with their staff members and at their grade level meetings, and then they bring that voice back to their buildings and then bring it back to our district level ACP team.
go right ahead.
The turnout for like Logan High School at 65%, is there something that we can look at differently? I mean, that's sad. It's too bad that it's only at 65%, and, you know, shame on us Northsiders for that. But I'm just wondering if there, if we could look at different options, or have, I'm sure you have, but what was it last year? Do you recall? 'Cause I don't recall.
I'd have to look, but I believe it was in the low 50s.
Yeah.
So it is significant growth in a year, but I absolutely hear what you're saying, and that's something that I think about quite often. You know, sustain what we're doing where we've been able to get the 65% there, but how do we speak to those who, for whatever reason, are deciding not to attend, can't attend? So on this team, our ACP team, this will be the conversation that we will have during in-service and during September, and say, here's the things we implemented last year, Logan High. This is where we got. What else? But not only to take it from the voices of our student services school counselors, but that's where that student voice is really important. You know, would there be something, or how could we help to get your family here? I'll mention Olga Denkova, who leads our EL for the district. She's been very helpful in improving each of these to get the numbers where they are. So being candid with you, that'll be one area that myself I focus on quite high, or significantly with Olga, because oftentimes we struggle when it's students who English is their second language. And so that may be, Olga does evening courses and language teaching, and she does some presentations on local radio stations. So that might be something there where I'll collaborate with Olga and try to hit it from a different angle. But we are definitely working to identify that, and I hope next year when I'm back that I can show you that this moved in the right direction.
Thank you.
Do those
Thank you.
meetings have to be in person? Is there a remote option? Families are so
Yes.
busy, like, once you get home and kick off your shoes, like,
Yep.
going back out the door is hard.
We do, and I'm glad you said that. Completely recognize that, as you say, get home and trying to get all things ready to be able to leave again is oftentimes really tricky, especially with multiple children. We have virtual open, we have a link that stays open so they can sign up for a time, or they can pop in, and they can do that with their student's school counselor, or they can do this with another one if one isn't free. For example, they have Counselor A, Counselor C is free, we can let them jump in at that link there too. But I would say that there's always room for us to communicate that in different angles, and to make sure that, yes, we feel like it's communicated, but maybe it's not for them. So that'll be something we'll be addressing as well too.
Did you have a question, Jim?
How about doing something outside of the school area? For instance, some people even have their parent-teacher conferences outside of school, because that's a school setting, and parents sometimes don't want to go into a school setting. So they have it at a recreation center or something.
That's a great idea. We haven't done that formally. We've done that just in individual settings. But I appreciate that idea, because having it in an alternate setting where someone may feel more comfortable, or they maybe already are there and it's a simple transition for them to move to the next location. So thank you. I will bring that up as well when we look at this plan again for this fall.
Can I ask one
Yeah,
more
go
question?
ahead. That's good.
I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
it piques my curiosity, but what is the difference, and you may not know this, but what is the difference in Central versus Logan, where English is not their first? Do you know whether, you know, because I could see where that could be a
Yes.
hindrance, you know, because you're not comfortable, you don't really understand. And
Absolutely.
I guess I'm just curious more than anything, but.
Yeah, so I would be giving you, I can answer the second part of the question, but what is the difference in percentage or representation? I would be giving you a guess, so I'm gonna lean on Patty or Carrie if they,
I don't have an exact percentage. We do have a higher percentage.
I won't hold you to an
Yeah,
exact
we have a
one.
higher percentage of EL students at Logan High School than we
Right.
do at Central High School, but not enough to cover that gap.
That's what I
So,
thought. We
yeah.
just need to do better.
we
As
do.
parents too, I mean, that's what I mean. Us Northsiders need, I mean, this is important, so I hope that we raise it every year from here on. And it's better than last year, next year no doubt will be better, but
Right, and that'll be something to, Luke Madsen, our new principal at Logan High School, that'll be one of the things when I have an opportunity to sit with him one-on-one of things that are within my area, career and technical education and academic career planning, work-based learning, academies. I'll bring this up and let him know this is our focus, you know, if we need additional supports, so he knows it's in line of sight.
thank you.
Thank you.
Different structures to the way that the central team is built versus the way the Logan team is built, or the way that you send communications out, because it's maybe not even that students are, that English isn't their first, but it's the parents, right? And so that's a harder, I think, number for us to gauge into as to where there's a comfort there, but just get off that topic. But as far as like the way the teams are structured, how many people are around them, like is there, or the way they're communicating out to teams, because I mean, they're, the central, we're at 92% versus 65. I mean, that's a big gap, which tells me either the team is structured differently, the communication's different, like something's different.
You're right, it is. There are differences. To give a formal response to that, I probably can't, but, you know, having worked with both buildings and both teams, I have some opinions that I believe lead to the differences and lead to this number. I will say that we do have many students at Logan who will attend this conference without their family.
Okay.
And so they will still show up, and sometimes that is a student who has a family member that's in one of these situations that we just talked about that would cause them to maybe not be as welcoming, or excuse me, not welcome, but as comfortable, you know, coming in to do that. Some of those things on the teams, like I said, how the ACP, Logan High, and Central teams, how they're comprised, they're very similar. But I have noticed there is a different level of passion or speed amongst some people on each team surrounding the academic career planning work, and I recognize that is, you know, part of my role to ensure that this moves forward. So again, we've made progress, but we definitely have room to keep growing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Manka, did you have a question?
I do not, my apologies for that, I'm
Okay.
listening attentively.
Just want to make sure we don't miss that. I just, I don't want to hold this whole thing up. I do appreciate you taking our feedback and
course.
hearing us, so thank you so much. You work hard at it, and then we sit here and judge it, so I appreciate you listening to us.
Oh, no, thank you. Your questions are wonderful, and these are the things that I love to hear so that I can bring them directly back to our team, because I as well want this number to change.
And I would also concur, like Britta and I talked even before coming over the data, and that's one of the pieces of data that we discussed, and it was jumped off the page at us. Not only Logan, but also CRVA, and how can we work with those schools to make sure if it's just a student involved in that conference, how can we get the parents involved as well, or families? So.
And you can only do so much yourself, so as a parent, we need to step up as well, so I appreciate all your hard work, thank you.
Molly?
Has there been any, like, reaching out to the parents that don't show up and just say, hey, what happened here?
Yes, the school counselors at the high schools, they do that.
Okay.
And that gets us to where we actually were. It's a trickle throughout the year, or sometimes even when they happen to see the student with the parent in-house for something else, they'll say, hey, I'd love you to just stop in and give me a few minutes. So as you can see, the rest of the sheet, we've got great numbers, great percentage. This wasn't this way, you know, always. So we've really improved, and this is the one where we're moving on. We're just not quite there, but some of the suggestions tonight, and again, not only communicating the ways that work for us, but the ways that work for their families, to be repetitive but not harassing. You know, but it will take, like your suggestion said, you know, possibly have an alternate setting, possibly have a Saturday morning. We've done that with our FAFSA events that we hold in collaboration with the Lacrosse Promise, and we've seen an increase in those numbers as well too.
Would it make sense to track maybe just for your own sake, so if students are attending, but we don't have parents, so that's still a positive, right? That's still a positive trend that there's still planning going on at the student level. Like, do we have parents engaged? No, but we're at least tracking. It might actually be interesting to see what that would look like, right? It might change that number pretty dramatically, at least
Yeah.
seeing what that gap could be, because then you're looking really just at that gap, right? I don't know, might be something, another piece to track.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So moving on from indicator 2, over 95% of our full-time enrolled students in grades 6 through 12 will complete the assigned academic and career planning benchmark, and we have shown reasonable progress for indicator 2 as well. Moving on to indicator 3, the work and lifelong learning. The percentage of students that demonstrate effective work and lifelong learning behaviors will increase over the previous year. This indicator and the piece of evidence comes from elementary school and from the elementary school report cards. And so we are looking at the elementary work habits, which is an area that the teachers, grade level teachers, fill out for their students in regards to listening attentively, actively participating in discussions and activities, following directions, work to the best of ability, demonstrate a growth mindset and set goals, demonstrate emotional management, demonstrate empathy and kindness, and demonstrate problem-solving skills. You will see the last several years of data, and then this year you will notice that we declined just slightly in 5 of the 8 areas and maintained steady percentages in 3 of the areas. In reflection of that data, we actually broke it down by grade level on the back, or the next slide, because we were more curious as to how it fluctuated from kindergarten to first grade to second grade, third, fourth, and fifth, even just based on conversations we've had with our teachers, or even some of the feedback and during the linkages that you've heard in regard to behaviors and such in the elementary school. So that was very eye-opening in regards to if we look at demonstrating empathy and kindness, being a previous elementary principal, that's something that we discuss every single day from kindergarten all the way to grade 5. And it's something that is understood by a kindergartner just as much as it is by a student who's in 5th grade. So you will notice that the percentages from kindergarten till 5th grade stays very similar for that component of the work habits. But areas like listening attentively or working to the best of my ability, you will notice at the kindergarten level starts lower, and then as you, similar for listening attentively, and then drops a little bit as they are starting to learn how to behave and do their job in school, and then will gets a little stronger in their percentages by the time they hit 4th and 5th grade. So that's what we are noticing for indicator 3, work and lifelong habits. So with that, we did not meet reasonable progress for indicator 3, but we are just within some percentage points. Questions about indicator 3?
Do you have them broke down into schools, single schools?
We did not do that for this report, but it's something we discussed. We also discussed as teachers come on board and fill out that report card, and making sure that we're calibrated around the rubric that they use to fill it out, to make sure that it's consistent across the schools, across the grade levels.
Right. Because you're real close on all these,
Yeah,
and
yep.
it's virtually the same, but it'd be nice to know if it's just one school that was struggling in some areas, and maybe help figure
Yes.
that one out for you.
And that's why we broke it down by grade level and didn't quite get to schools yet.
Thank you.
I would say based on the linkage that we heard from the elementary schools, I think it's you're gonna see a shift in all the schools, or probably most of the schools, at least that's kind of what I've heard from elementary staff from this past year. I do appreciate this is kind of subjective, and the fact that people try to be consistent how they do it and not make it so we evened out. Sometimes saying we didn't do as good as we did last year is a hard thing to say, but it's an honest thing, and I really respect that.
And we're within a few percentages, a little measure of error there.
Yeah, I was
Meredith?
just gonna, exactly what you said. It feels like it's within the margin of error,
Yes.
actually,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just sort of natural variation and how
I
you-
felt that exact thing, but also knowing that, 5 of the 8 were less, it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we
We can
define
reflect
it
on it.
as gains and we don't gain, then it's right to mark it that way.
Yeah.
But I also saw that and felt that we're probably,
Yes.
Do we feel that the COVID impact is somehow being reflected in this? When we talked at linkages, we often heard from staff that they felt, particularly as young kids that came along during COVID, just it impacted them, it impacted their development in a different way.
I would say COVID. I would also we've had conversation around technology with, Mr. Teff was up here talking last meeting. So I think there's been quite a few changes in just raising children at this time that have made an impact. So COVID, yes, technology likely has an impact on that as well. They may not be sitting side by side and playing with the toy on the floor in parallel play and sharing. And so when you get to, elementary school and you're, participating in discussions or activities, following directions, if they've been more on technology or watching screens versus sitting with a family member, a parent, another sibling, those skills may not be as developed yet. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Jim?
Well, this still goes back to, and moving it to a secondary level, we talked about standards-based grading. Well, here we have to talk about, make sure the values of all the instructors in charge are evaluating this the same way. I mean, do I have a bias that way or this way? And so I don't know how you work that in, but at the same time, something to be looked at.
yes, Jim, that was my thought about like calibrating around the rubric that explains what is a 3, a 2, a 1 in regards to how we mark their work habits on the report card. So, yep. We will move on to indicator 4, which is youth apprenticeship.
Youth Apprenticeship is a program that I'm incredibly passionate about. In my career, I think I've spent almost 20 years touching Youth Apprenticeship in one way or another. Youth Apprenticeship is a high school opportunity to earn and learn while a student is still within our doors. It is what most of us would recognize as an internship. You can see listed here, there are now actually 16 pathways or paths through our Youth Apprenticeship program. We are represented directly to Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development. This is the end of our 3rd year with our own consortium. Our title is simply La Crosse Youth Apprenticeship Consortium. I'm very proud of the growth that we have had, like I mentioned, in our consortium over the number of years. Because there are now 16 pathways available, what that does is that opens up opportunities for students to continue to learn and grow, explore within a pathway of interest. So a student can be a youth apprentice when they are a junior, a senior, or both. A student could be a youth apprentice, I'll give an example, their junior year. Let's say a student is interested in health sciences. They could take a CNA course, earn their CNA license, Certified Nursing Assistant license, and then have part of their school day built in to, instead of going to a class, let's say 7th and 8th hour, their schedule would say Youth Apprenticeship Health Science, and they would go to one of our healthcare partners and earn and learn on site as a CNA. So that's just the heart of the program. Like I mentioned, I'm very proud of the growth that we've had here this year, and this is not represented on the back or the second page. The second page we'll talk about our seniors specifically, but this year, 24-25, we had 98 youth apprentice, which is an incredible number for our district. 5 years ago, we had 3. So we've continued to increase each year, absolutely, yes. Our consortium, I just have to share, has been also getting some recognition across the state. There were 13,000 youth apprenticeship students in Wisconsin last year. Wisconsin is a leader in youth apprenticeship and RA, or registered apprenticeship. Last year I was invited to present at Department of Workforce Development's apprenticeship conference in 3 separate sessions. And what they wanted me to present on were different topics, but sharing our growth and our progress across the state, which was really rewarding to be able to bring our district, and represent our district in that way on that stage. So if you flip to the back, you will see these are the numbers of graduating seniors who have been youth apprentice. So I don't want to confuse that with the growth of our consortium. These would be the students who either were a youth apprentice that graduated in 21, 22, either their junior year, senior year, or both. And then 22, 23, you'll see there were 42, 23, 24, 47 of our seniors, and 24, 25, we had 72 of our seniors who were youth apprentice. The reason why this number is different than what I talked about that we had this last school year is because we have many juniors. So to have 25, 30 juniors who are a youth apprentice or a high school intern is wonderful. That means that we've provided that opportunity for them earlier on. Part of our grant to Department of Workforce Development surrounding our youth apprenticeship program includes a robust request for funding. I am our consortium coordinator directly to DWD, and so we have audits and performance reviews and on-site visits where they check everything that we're doing or aren't doing. It's all been really great for us so far. But one of the areas that we naturally wanted to focus on and continue to increase is if you look down at our data of our students who comprise that group of 72, you will see that we have all groups of students represented besides students who are Native American or American Indian, but these numbers have been growing as well too. And so I'm very proud to share that our this program, which is, I believe, an incredible opportunity for our students, is being utilized better across the board by our different student groups, students who may have an IEP or a 504 plan, students who may be socioeconomically disadvantaged, students who are EL, and students that this more accurately represents our student body that we have present in our district. Questions for me?
Do teachers working in this program have to get an additional license as far as?
Great question. Actually, no. So 4 years ago when I came on the team, I took over this program and wanted to build it. I hold multiple teaching licenses as well as a career and technical education administrator, which allows me to serve it in both roles. And so my first year, we had, I think, 25, 27 youth apprentice, juniors and seniors. I coordinated them out at our different buildings. Each building I would attend certain days of the week. To be able to grow that, we kept growing the next year, and then we were able to hire Matt Wiggy. He's been here to present as well, too. He was a previous teacher at Logan High and then Polytechnic. I actually met Matt my first year here when his son wanted to be an electrician, and so I started working with his son to place him as a youth apprentice. Matt and his wife Mel walked through it with me as parents, and then Matt was in the district. One of my personal goals that first year was to have representation at both Poly and CRVA for our students, not only in youth apprenticeship programs, but also in industry recognized credentialing, more in dual credit attainment, and providing seats in our academies for our students that come from Poly and CRVA. And so I spent quite a bit of time at Poly my first year, and then it was 2 years later when I wrote our request for funding to DWD to expand upon the grant. I built in what's now Matt's position. And so Matt has just finished his second year with us in youth apprenticeship. Matt's title is Youth Apprenticeship Program Facilitator. And so Matt works directly on my team. And having Matt has really helped us continue to grow at the level that we have because he's based in the buildings 100% of the time. But his license is, he has an alt-ed license, but we have his license and my license together so that we can code the sections a certain way. And Matt and I, like I said, we tag team this program so that we can build the sections and award the credit as we do, and it has opportunity for post-secondary credit in the UW and the WTCS system.
Thank you.
Question? So this is wonderful, by the way, so great job, but this is also, I think, a tribute to the Boys and Girls Club's building a big addition on there, which I think will only enhance your outcome with this as well, don't you believe?
Absolutely. I was fortunate to be at that group the first fall I was here and to help help with pieces of their grant writing components.
Yeah.
And then working with Brian pretty closely on floor plans. We've brought in many members of our career and tech ed team, specifically our technology and engineering instructors, our aviation instructor, to give voice with their architects as they were designing that. So we're thrilled to, what I say, hold hands with them, to have students step into their pathways or continue to step into 4, 5, 6 pathways. I always say, it's great if a student ends their time with us with one big thing on their plate, but it's even better when they're able to take things off their plate and they may leave with 4 or 5 things that are maybes for them. So we consider that just as successful. And I think that partnership, like you're talking about in that build there, is going to help us do that earlier.
That's exciting.
I have a
Yes.
question too here.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you won't keep on kind of stealing some of my questions here, but one of the questions I had for this is there any industries you're hoping to kind of break into here? Is it mostly the employer who reaches out, or how does that work for us trying to build more pathways?
Yeah, that's a great question. So DWD had 12 pathways, and so that meant we couldn't step outside of those 12 because they're not state approved, and they simply don't exist. But when they expanded to 16, it was over 2 3-year revisions. I was able to be a part of a handful of those committees as well as those were developed. And so now that we have all 16, we actually can explore and place students in any of them. One thing that's absolutely critical for our students to know what pathway or how we place is they need to have curriculum and content beneath it. So I'll use an example. If a student is interested in automotive technician, but they've never had a course that's connected to the transportation pathway, we actually are not doing a good thing for the employer or for the student, because we'd be putting them out in what we call a capstone opportunity. Think of it as a 300 or 400 level course. So a student would go to a Dahl Ford and they may have some knowledge from their life outside of school, but no formal training. And what that does, and I've experienced it as a coordinator of youth apprenticeship for many years and learned from it, is that frustrates the business, and that partnership usually isn't sustained, because they say, the student maybe doesn't know what a muffler is, the student doesn't understand the basics of anything in the transportation pathway. So I use this one because it is I feel a strong district, it is a strong area of concern in the school district of La Crosse. And so we've been offering one automotive course at Logan High School for a number of years. We do have exterior doors there on the tech ed shop and a bay and a lift. Central High School doesn't. And so part of one of the grants I wrote last year gave us the opportunity to spend about $21,000 in automotive equipment. Carl Perkins grant, jokingly called Uncle Carl, but not a joke. About $21,000 that we've been able to put into having an auto program at Central. So we put it in the books. We worked on it all year with DPI, with our instructors. We attended trainings together. We went to other districts and observed Holman, Anna, GET, Toma. And we have 6 sections of auto running at Central this year. So thrilled to be able to do that. The reason I'm talking about auto is because we need our students to have courses in the pathways so that they know what they're getting into. Essentially, they say, okay, I took auto 1, hopefully someday auto 2, right? Which is actually going to be transcriptive for dual credit. I'm thrilled about that. And what's next for me? I'm going to apply to be a youth apprenticeship in the transportation pathway because I think I need more there. I think I want to keep going and learning. I apologize. I think I might have missed the second part of your question. I got really excited about that one because I'm still thrilled that there's 16 pathways. Mr. Minko, was the second part of your question, could you repeat that for me?
Yeah, I more so kind of asked if there's any way to get more of those pathways.
Yep.
And I'd say you answered that. It sounds like it's from the statewide issue. I mean, this program you have here, not steal your thunder, I'd say tremendous. When I think of innovation, I think of being able to give students more hands-on experience that perhaps you might not get at a college level, or something which that it's just, again, like you said, kind of just get that spark and get a lot of other career fields going on here. And I see a lot of great stuff going on with this here. I'd love to see what's being showcased here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that and that support for our program. Continuing here, you'll see the list of employers, the program area, the pathway, and the employers for the 24-25 school year. I just remembered, I think there was a brief question about how we partner with employers. There's 3 ways. One is the student may already have a connection, and the student says, I I think I want to do this. I've learned about the youth apprenticeship program. I think I have a place. And then Matt and or I, or Matt and I together, depending on where we're at with things, will approach that employer and we mentor that employer. We go through the program, the requirements. We essentially do a training. We talk about what that will look like. And then if they're on board, we make that deal and we coordinate the student placement all year long, year round. The second way is the business comes to us and says, hey, we have a pathway, we have an area that we think we'd like to connect with students. What could we do? And we help them to actually build specific youth apprenticeship programs. With Amplify Health right now, over the last year, we've been working to build multiple .2 positions. Well, .5s are posted, .75, 1.0. At Amplify, think of a certified nursing assistant, a medical assistant, a dietary aide, environmental services team member, and now they've posted multiple .2s. So our students who want to be a youth apprentice in that area can apply and actually be considered for those positions. So that's the second way that this happens. And then the third way is students come to us, they fill out our application for youth apprentice. It's a Google form. We meet with them, we get to know them. I actually had the honor to do this today in my office, which I love it, for the middle of July. Still excited about it. But then we get to know that student and we learn about what they have done, what they haven't done. Sometimes we say, you're not ready. We need you to go and we need you to take some courses in the pathway, or we need you to take more. And then we'll say, come back in January, come back in December, come back next year. Not to say, you're not ready, we're done. You're not ready yet, but we want you to be ready and we want to help you to get there. And we're very lucky to have the elective opportunities that we do in this district to provide that for them. So then what will happen is, sometimes, like I said, we will meet with the student and then we go seeking. I kind of joke it's like matchmaking, but it really is. You not only need to make sure that the student has the background that's going to be beneficial to the employer, but we also need to make sure that they fit that team, they fit that family there. And so that's why most every student that we place as a youth apprentice, we do at least one full day job shadow. So they go out and shadow on site and get to see a real, I would say it's not a pretty view. We want that on purpose. A 2-hour job shadow is here's the bathroom, here's the lunch, here's all the people, thanks for coming to see us. An 8-hour job shadow is like, whoa, I'm tired, I'm sweaty, I didn't get to eat, right? So the student really sees the field, and then we work with that employer to kind of to match them up. This list, like I said, is extensive of last year's formal placements, but this list does not include all the businesses that we partner with in other ways and that we have approached and continue to speak with regarding YA. This list will change every year. There are some employers that remain, and there are others that jump on or off based upon what their needs are. Yes, sir.
This may sound really old school, but go with me.
Sure.
At one time, there was certain requirements for high school graduation. You had to take 4 years of language arts, 3 years of this, 2 years of this, et cetera, et cetera. Are those kind of gone now? They're still there? I mean, I don't understand necessarily how you work them all in if I get into one of these academies. I have nothing wrong with this. I mean, not faulting it. I'm just wondering, maybe I could even look at a curriculum guide, or you could share some documents with us to say, this is what the kid today, the student today has to choose from, or could choose from.
You can, absolutely. Am I okay to?
Yeah,
okay.
go for it.
Sorry. Yes, so our students, like I said, the example of their schedule, think of an 8-period day, right? They would have, potentially could have 8 courses where they're earning 0.5 credit per semester for each hour of the day, right? Each of the 8 periods. Youth apprenticeship can go in, I'm just giving an example, as 6th hour youth apprenticeship, 7th hour, 8th hour. We even do a 9th hour and a 0 hour for students to expand. And they earn the same amount of elective credit as they would if they were in a separate elective course, because we believe so strongly in what they're learning. We actually identify state and national standards for all of the 68 youth apprenticeship programs. There's a group of us that coordinate, the coordinators across the state, who have a chat. Last Thursday, the question was, and I answered it right away, they said, what are each of your districts offering for credit? I said, we offer original credit the same as any other elective course. And some were like, wow, that's a lot. I'm like, we absolutely believe in it. So what that does, to answer your question, is they still have all the graduation requirements, and there's maybe 8.5 for elective credits. Sorry, I might be off a little bit on the 8.5 number, but these help fulfill those. It's just that instead of learning in our seats, they're learning in the business and industry seat.
And is there ever a danger of having too many
Sure.
apprenticeships, and therefore they're spread too thin? There's only
Yep.
4 for this and 5 for this, and therefore we can't offer them because of the minimal number?
There are, to answer that two ways. For some students, having anything more than one period of youth apprenticeship is a negative. And like I said, I've been coordinating for a number of years, so unfortunately I've learned that firsthand. Shoot, too much, didn't go well, tweak that. You know, don't do that again. But sometimes there are students who are second semester seniors, they are ready to rock and roll, and we'll do like a 3 through 8, and they're out. And we do site visits. We meet with the students on a bi-weekly basis. When I was coordinating, sometimes I'd be on site 5 days a week for one student, depending on what it was. To answer that on the other side, sometimes we have students who are ready for placements and we struggle to place them. Or we could give them this placement, but we know as educators it's not the right spot for them. And there's a variety of reasons. So we'll have that student hang on. Go ahead, take some more elective courses, expand what you're doing. And then let's try it again when we can find a placement that's just right. And that's why I was joking about the matchmaker, but it's not really a joke. It's like you've got to figure it out and make sure it's there so that it will be very positive. Our students also who are youth apprentice, they do have to have 2 credits of related instruction. And the related instruction needs to complement the placement that they're in. Oftentimes we have them in a principles of marketing, intro to business, accounting 1, accounting 2, so they're learning the business side of the industry. And then we have them in a capstone opportunity within their pathway. So I mentioned transportation. Right now, we would be creative. We would potentially encourage them to apply for early college credit program, start college now, and to get that next level course there while they are a youth apprentice. So they're still learning more in their pathway.
And since the expansion of apprenticeship programs, are there less truancy? I mean, more kids are identifying with, I would hope more people are connecting with some of these programs and so on, and therefore they enjoy coming to school because it fits into what I think school should be.
Absolutely. I wish I could show you, you had the pictures in your head of the students. The youth apprenticeship placement that gives them the sweatshirt that says the name of the organization, and that student will wear that as their winter coat, for weeks on end, right? They're very, very proud of it. They have an opportunity to be a part of something. I always tell employees it's their 3rd fit. The first fit is who they are in their home and their family, right? You can't change that. The second fit, bless you, second fit is who they are at school. It is what it is. You can try to steer it. But the 3rd fit for many of the students is somewhere that they belong, and it's like a family feel. They're oftentimes very loyal. So to answer your question, I'm going to surmise that the attendance is better than it would be. I can also tell you that when students have a youth apprenticeship opportunity built into their academic career plan, their pathway to graduation, oftentimes it's something that they really, really want and they're hanging on tight to. So some students will get the other things done so that they can keep this thing, right? Because when I made the decision to officially leave the classroom, I taught for 16 years in neighboring districts. It was building these programs and others that I have the opportunity to lead here as well too, and watching students shine. A student who's doing, okay in one of the classes you're teaching, but I would place them, go out and see them, and I'll use a student named Justin. Saturday mornings I do a site visits on a robotic dairy farm. He's, teaching the owner of the whole company, farming industry that they're, multiple robotic farms. He's teaching the owner how to run their equipment, how to do it, training 35-year-old new employees, right? So this does tend to keep students there and to really keep them vested. There are some that trickle out and they have to kind of fall off the ledge to come back up. But I think this is something that not only helps our students who I would consider to be at risk, but also our students who are in the top 5-10% of their graduating class.
Can I just bring up one thing? Thank you. You can see the excitement that you have for this, and it's nice. Thank you. I think back when I was in high school, a long, long time ago, we had building trades. My teacher was Terry Curtis, by the way, so, and I didn't screw him up too bad, so. But then we got away from it for a long time, and the focus was on college, 4-year degree. And it's just not for everyone, right? So it's nice to see that we're rebuilding this in our schools to give the other part of our kids the opportunity to learn. And even if you don't end up in that trade, ultimately, the life skills you gain is there forever. That doesn't go away. They may not have ever had that opportunity to learn that if it wasn't for their high school classes. So kudos to you and keep it up, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
you, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is the heart of who I was as a middle school and high school student and as a career educator. Living in the pathways and being able to expand these, I say it's a privilege, it's truly a privilege. Because I get to watch things shine, you know, and watch students shine. So thank you for your comments.
Well, thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
I also want to comment on the disaggregated data, the growth in the socioeconomic disadvantaged students.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of our cool things that we do, those numbers always lag, and so it's nice to see how those students are really taking advantage of this program, and good for them. So it's really nice to see. I always look for those vulnerable populations, so this is great to see.
Thank you for highlighting that, Deb. I know that those are all things that we discussed as well in preparing for today. As you can see, you know why I invited Britta to this meeting today. She has so much to share, so much excitement, and we have so much to celebrate as a district in regards to the work that's being done. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, next meeting, August 4th, we will then be looking to, under our business, we'll be looking to take a vote then on this result, so. Any other questions? Thank you for an excellent
Thank you.
report.
Thank you.
We'll then move on to proposed budget instructional priorities, and who's presenting? Oh, you're presenting. You
I
look ready to
am.
roll.
So I have the instructional priorities report for 25-26 moving forward into the next school year. This was submitted by our program supervisors as well as our content coordinators under the instructional umbrella, and being shared and sharing it with you tonight. As you can see, it's very in-depth. It's multiple pages long. It is broken down by these departments, starting off with agri-science education with Dr. Britta Rotering. You can see what the focus areas are in each one of these areas as we move into this next school year. And reflecting on last year's and moving into this year, there are some that are very similar. We have brought up standards-based teaching and learning and grading multiple times at each board meeting, and that continues to be a theme as we work through this next school year, but focusing more of our work on building those common assessments, having further conversations about what are the instructional practices and strategies that are used in classrooms, and not only 6 through 12, but K through 12, because we also use standards-based teaching, learning, grading at the elementary level. So as you look across every department, you will see the great work that is being done by our educators, led by our content coordinators, our teachers teaching in the classroom every single day, and that have taken a leadership role within our district. I certainly can go through each one of these areas, but I know you have had the opportunity to look at each department. Are there questions about the instructional priorities moving forward?
So these are all excellent goals, and there's a lot of more areas than I would have ever even thought there could be. So we see this report, when and how do we see how well we accomplish this? And again, this is a budget tool, so this is what's going to be a priority for where our resources go to. So how do we, this is great, but then how do we close that circle once this is all done?
So for the most part, not every single one of these, but for the most part, they fall under under my role with the budgetary decision-making in regards to how we spend our money. We're zero-based budget, so obviously the budgets were submitted to me. I submitted them to Patty. They were returned back to me. So as we look at purchasing resources, you can look at 6-8 math. We have a new resource this year, so a large chunk of our curriculum money will be going towards the 6-8 math resource. So it really helps us to prioritize how we're spending our dollars within the instructional umbrella. There are some out here, like Kurt Teff has our community service, so that obviously would fall under his umbrella. He, as the director, would be managing his budget there. But as we look at the priorities of each department, we use that. I use that. Our team uses that with both Dr. Everson and Mrs. Sherrill, that we have conversation around how we're spending the dollars to best support our departments and being fiscally responsible for the district.
I wanted to just say thanks. I really like seeing it laid out this way. And we heard from Britta today. We heard from Laura and Tony a few weeks ago to speak very passionately about their work. We've heard Kurt present about his work, and we know how important it is to the community. So it's really cool to have like this, have it presented this way as instructional priorities connected to our budget, when we're also hearing about the good work they're doing and congratulating them up here. I did notice the English secondary is a TBD.
It has been determined, so we do have new content coordinators for both 6-8 as well as 9-12. So we will have Megan Burke as our content coordinator, first grade 6 through 8. She is an academic coach at Logan Middle. And we will have Alicia Feldkamp as our 9 through 12 secondary ELA content coordinator. Alicia had been a content coordinator previously in the
She's
first
great.
year
Yeah.
and was getting her master's as well as the department chair at Logan High. So she stepped away and now is stepping back in.
That's
So we're
awesome.
excited to have her.
That's awesome, and I feel like this, for the 6-8, it also addresses something that we heard in the union linkage, which was more support for ELA and history curriculum, and this is a great path to walk down for that, rather than like buying scripted curriculums or trying to keep people on pace with something that might not suit student needs, but instead have support to build common assessments and stuff like that. Is there, like, you may not know this, but like, I do hear sometimes from the high school teachers that they don't know where the press for common curriculum, that there's a concern that like the culture at Logan and the culture at Central are different. They're both really good in their own ways, but they are very different. And I've seen like phenomenal social justice lit circles at Central and phenomenal dystopian lit circles at Logan. Like, there are experienced teachers there who have built really engaging curriculum. Is there room to keep what makes those two spaces special? And I just worry about that getting lost in the desire to standardize and organize and objectivize things that, especially in ELA, are not really objective measures, even when they're kind of made to look that way. Does that make sense?
Yes, there is. As I think were highlighted earlier this year, we had the high school course that ran, which was like reading and outdoor, in the outdoor lit class.
Yes, I would have loved to have taken that.
Right, so that was only at Logan. That's where
Right.
the interest was. So there's always going to be different electives,
Yeah.
and there will be different even resource choices within an ELA class based on the strengths and interests of the students as well as the teacher. What we're looking at for standards-based is, are we measuring growth towards the same standards? Not that we're teaching it the same, not that we're even necessarily in an ELA course
Right.
using the exact same resources. We're not step by step
Yeah.
that tight. It is more about what standards are we measuring, how are we measuring them, what types of questions are we asking, so that there is consistency in the experience of learning based on the standard, maybe not the resource that's used,
Okay.
especially in an ELA or a history.
Yeah.
We have, certain textbooks for different courses. That's probably going to be a little bit more lockstep, just based on the textbook that was chosen, but there's still room for supplemental conversations and materials that would be used.
Nice, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did
Jim?
you lay this out? I'm sorry. Did you lay this out?
One of our instructional administrative assistants collected it all. We reviewed it, had conversations, so.
It's very nice, and it's when I was reading it last Friday or whatever it was, it's precise, but it's very helpful for us to understand too, because it's easy for us to be up here, but to really understand the depth of what each of them do it's a great job. So thank you to whoever did it.
You're welcome. I'll let him know.
Jim's like,
Jim?
Just some specific questions, like for instance, under health sciences. I was just curious, you talk about coordination with Viterbo and Winona State. No UW-La Crosse. I was just curious, why not?
That would be a really good question for me to go back and ask that
I think-
specific. Here comes Britta.
That's We are partnering with UWL and Western. Those two are expansions. Winona State is a new one for us. Had the opportunity to sit down with their program director recently. So.
Okay. The next question is on preschool. I don't quite understand, and maybe too much to explain, but models 1, 2, and 3, and then what percent of kids in the La Crosse School District attend 4K?
It's a really good question for Shelley Sherrill.
I can-
Model 1, 2, and 3. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Deb.
Well, I was on the committee to help create it. So Model 1 is having it in the school building, and our dream was actually to have wraparound childcare for the other half of the day. Model 2 is that it's delivered in the childcare setting with staff from the school district going to the childcare setting. This is a long time ago, it's like 20 years ago. I'm
You're
really-
right on.
And Model 3 is that the childcare setting has a staff person that is certified to teach, and that the district can reimburse them for that staff person.
Correct.
Okay, and then still the percentage of kids going to a 4K.
Off the top of my head, I don't have that, but I can certainly email you tomorrow.
Yes, 50%, 80%?
Oh, it's
For sure.
Okay,
For sure.
80%.
I would say well over 50.
Okay,
Shelley is probably texting me right now. She's probably watching at home, like sending me the percentage.
Okay.
But I
And
will
then-
get that to you.
and then in mathematics, Ms. Liga, she talks about the Envision curriculum, and she talked about the K through 5 classrooms. Will this eventually be a PK through 12 curriculum, or is it, I mean,
It's a really great question. We just had a review for grades 6 through 8 for math, and we are going to be using Envision for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They'll be, our teachers, the resources are coming in. Our teachers will be trained on August 19th with a rep from Envision coming to our district. It will likely not be 9 through 12 because of the specific courses that are taught at that, with algebra, geometry, algebra 2, that would be different, but we are looking at consistency for kindergarten through 8th grade.
yeah, but even in geometry or algebra 2, you think Envision might have some background in that area, I mean.
Likely, it's probably sold under a different name
Okay.
and specific for that
Yep.
topic.
Okay.
Because we teach math differently at that high school level, and even sometimes by 8th grade, we have students in algebra that are, it's a high school level course.
But the
So,
critique behind it could still be Envision theory.
could be,
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Mr. Jackson?
First, very detailed, so thank you. I don't understand most of what I'm looking at since I'm not an educator, so I appreciate the detail though, because it really, to Scott's point, just the amount of time spent in each area you can see, it's really, really helpful for me. So I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what Deb asked originally. So this is the first time I've seen something like this. So keep this coming, but I want to understand, like, one, how does it tie back to the budget? How do we make sure that each team member, when they made that budget request, where that money landed, did they get fully funded, did they not get fully funded? And then 2, like, how are we doing when we have some of these actions that are in some of these sub-bullets? Like, are these getting done? Do they need help? Like, again, not really our job, but mostly just, hey, it's tied to the budget. Did it get tied in correctly, and did we get funded, or did something change? And because again, that could, as we go through linkages, it could give us some context as to maybe why somebody's grumbling about something.
Yeah, for the
right?
majority, the budgets were supported. There was very few that came back that we needed to cut. There are certain subject or content departments that we know from year to year may need a little bit more or a little less and then I also can cover part of that in my curriculum portion, like 6th through 8th grade math. They will have a large amount spent in that area because of the new resource. That would be different next year. A little less, but also still continuing to fund professional development as needed with this new resource. So it fluctuates. Most of our content areas stay pretty consistent in what they're requesting, and when they submit their budget to me and then it gets passed on to Patty, it's very specific as to what they're spending their money on. It is broken down by the different codes, different things that they're looking to spend their money on. So, Patty, you want to add any more to that?
I would say that this document is included in your budget book because this is what our budget supports. And when all of the department heads send them back to me and I put them all together, then we meet again with the instructional team. Because if there's something that seems, out of line or unexpected, it's like, is this a one-year expense that we need to cover, or is this an ongoing? So those are the ways we put the dollars to the priorities.
Yeah, I think the question, far be it for me to say what the priorities should be. I'm not qualified to decide that, but at the end of the day, if we're putting resources into it, we have an obligation, we approve the budget, we have an obligation to say to the public, this was a priority, this is what we spent the money on, and this was achieved, or this wasn't achieved, but we learned X, Y, Z, or this. I think that's why I'm asking is to close that circle, because just because we say we're gonna do it, we're saying spend the money on that because we approved the budget. So how do we go back to our taxpayers and say this was a wise investment?
I think the perfect example for that is we've been watching data over the last several years, and our math data was low. So we did our research. We chose a new resource for kindergarten through 5th grade math. So yes, we're in the early adoption of that, but our test scores are the students reaching mastery on certain standards should improve, right? So that should tell us over time that the money spent was money well spent based on the multiple areas of data we could dig into for, let's say, math achievement, whether it's Wisconsin Forward, whether it's iReady, a benchmark system we use within the district, measurement towards the standards. We should be able to watch the data to see improvement over time. Meredith?
Could you also say that, like, when we hear Britta present about increasing participation, when we hear Tony talk about community partnerships, when we hear Kurt talk about community programs, and we are evaluating those as in compliance or achieving what we're doing there, is we are affirming that the budget they requested and that they came and presented on that day, there's where we're seeing the results, right? Well,
Yes.
that's what we're doing every week.
Perfect example as well, Mr. Tim Sprain coming and kind of sharing the stories behind science, as well as we also do have, it's all types of data. It's what's happened, the anecdotal data, as well as, what we're pulling out of a Wisconsin Forward. It shows growth towards those goals.
I wonder too, I feel like, not to keep dragging this on, but some of these things are like cyclical parts of our policy, like renewing curriculum, or whether that's developing common assessments or getting a new math textbook or a new history textbook. We're on a curriculum adoption cycle, and these instructional goals are part of that curriculum adoption cycle that we put into policy.
And sometimes we adjust that cycle if needed based on needs of
Science of reading.
Yes.
Mr. Vigneski?
Yes.
I'm looking at science in terms of FOSS is a kit-based program, and prior to that, there was a program called Carolina, and it involved kits. Now, kits were kept here at Hogan, filled and distributed out to staff as needed, because that was the only way we could keep them filled. Do you know the program behind FOSS?
Yeah, actually, it's there's still the kit-based, so that there are experiments, but there's also the teacher resource that goes along with how to teach, what to teach, to support the essential standards we have chosen for science for our district. So at the elementary level, we have FOSS Pathways, which is it's a resource that teachers use to help them teach the science, but then they do have the kit, but there are kits in every single building. They're not coming from a central location, they are within their schools. The academic coaches also help to organize those materials as needed, as well as Jasmine Valentine is now our K-5 content coordinator. That was listed as TBD. So she is a teacher teaching 4th grade, and she is supporting the K-5 science in our schools.
It's important if you're gonna go kit-based to have somebody maintain those
Yep.
kits.
Yep, we've gotten pretty strong over time with that, and we also have a fabulous instructional AA, Jerry Patchell, who has joined our office in the last year, who works with almost every one of these content coordinators to help support their budget, to help with the ordering, the organization. A shout out to her because she is truly amazing in the organization of almost, most all of our instructional departments at the district level.
And really, I just wanna compliment, this is not reading about science, this is actually doing science that you talk about, for us kids.
And we can't get away from that. That's where we have higher levels of engagement, and students get very excited about science. So we need to keep that going.
Other comments, questions?
Ms. Sherrill did message, and she said about 1/3 are in Model 3 daycare setting, or about 100 out of 330 4K students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I knew she would. I appreciate that. All right.
We'll move on then, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going on to announcements. Dr. Garcia.
Yeah, LPF doesn't meet in July, but I got an update from Nell. All the board members got an update from Nell. So Bowtie Classic, September 6th, save the date. If you're a golfer, sign up. It's a great event and benefits our teachers and our students. They highlighted a Gold Star grant spotlight for State Road Elementary School students who went to 2 days at Camp Wild Wonders. So we might have heard Kurt talk about the Outdoor Recreation Alliance trails, the trail farm. And so kids got to go out and have 2 days at camp, funded by LPEF members. And they spotlighted a community partner, Marine Credit Union, that routinely or annually donates to LPEF for the valedictorian education investor. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
So for my announcements, the State Education Convention registration opens coming up this fall, it's in January. Highly recommend if you can go to even for a few of the days, maybe not all of the days. The networking is so helpful. The going through the vendor area is very helpful, and not to mention all the sessions are wonderfully done. So strongly recommend people consider going to that. Although some people choose going on cruises to the Caribbean in January, so I guess it's tough to compete with that. Get back to Laura if you're interested in going. She does a fantastic job of setting up ride shares and the hotel and everything. I don't know how you keep track of us, but thank you for that. Laura, if I might ask you, we've got days coming up for new staff and all staff that board members are invited to. Can you tell us what those dates are?
Yep. So the new staff, well, if you want to, yep, by all means.
Yes, August 12th in the morning from 7:45 until 8:30. You are all invited to join. We will be having coffee and fruit, and Dr. Engel, and I don't know if Dr. Engel's reached out yet, but he was going to reach out.
Yeah, I've already
Okay.
said I would.
Super, to welcome our new staff. So we will be having our new staff onboarding at Logan High School, August 12th, 13th, and 14th. So it's 3 days of the first morning. We share coffee and fruit, and we have some community building, and then we get into some of the nuts and bolts of what they need for day one. So, and then back to school in-service for all staff is the 18th, 19th, and 20th. You probably have the times exactly in front of you for.
I don't actually.
Okay.
I
believe all schools are starting in their school for about an hour-long staff meeting, and then we will all be coming to Logan High School. With the construction at Central, we're staying away from Central, even though we know it's supposed to be at Central this year. We go back and forth every year. But we will come together at Logan High School on the 18th, and I believe the opening ceremony starts at 9:30 that morning, and I think goes till 11.
And board members are invited to those, so.
I'm sorry, what day was that one again?
August 18th.
And on the 12th, it starts at what time?
Coffee starts at 7:45, and new teachers will arrive. And it will be very much like last year, where the new teachers will be sitting with their peers at like elementary school table, middle school table, high school table, district, so they can get to know colleagues that they will be working with from day one. And then principals and other supervisors, leaders will be also invited to join and just casually mingle and have conversation with our new staff.
So it's always a great opportunity for board members to get to talk to our staff and for our staff to see how engaged we are as a board. Did you have something to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. So we're done with announcements. Move on to agenda planning, which is presented to you there for the August 4th meeting. So we would need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Manka, did you have a question?
Yes, I sent an email to you. I know you were on a cruise, but I was curious if we are able to have a workshop on standard basic renegade update more in depth. We talked a little bit about it today, but I'm very curious. I think it's well worth the community's time as well for a workshop, kind of hear the priorities of the school for the second year, hearing what changed from last year, and just kind of just getting an overall evaluation.
So Dr. Engel, so I was traveling last week, Dr. Engel's traveling this week, so we're gonna connect next week, and we will schedule one. You suggested a date. I don't know if it'll be that date, it might be after that, but we'll look at doing that.
No worries.
Thank you.
Other than that, I guess since I'm here, I'll make my first motion virtually. I'll make a motion to approve, actually, let me double check the language needed for this.
Do we already have a motion?
We already have a motion and a second.
Oh, cool, even better. Didn't even hear it.
Your mic has a 5-second delay.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Begneski?
Aye.
Ms. Fuchs?
Aye.
Dr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Manka?
Aye.
Mr. Newmeister?
Aye.
Ms. Sukla?
Aye. Board debriefing, Mr. Jackson tonight.
Yeah, I think in general, it wasn't, we didn't go down too many rabbit holes, which was great. A lot of great questions, a lot of great content coming in, so that was good. I can appreciate everybody's backgrounds because it helps me understand the depth of knowledge around the table and how sometimes I don't have a lot of knowledge when it comes, especially when it comes to content and curriculum and what actually happens in classrooms and the magic that happens there around all of our kids, mine included right now. So, yeah, I think in general it was pretty direct and pretty quick.
Any other comments? Okay, with that, then we will stand adjourned.